Good evening. It's the evening of day 10, and I hope you had a great day. So I wanted to let you know that today I'll be traveling home from their cottage. So I'm going to show you how you can feed your starter just once a day if you happen to be traveling or have a really busy day and know that you just won't have time for it. This is what you can do. So let's take a quick look at Betty close up and see how she's doing. You can see it's really active still. How this is wonderful. There's lots of bubbles and it smells sweet and like sourdough. It's not sour yet though. It's risen, you can tell. It's more than doubled. So this is an old starter. It's gone past its peak activity. It's risen and dropped and it leaves a mark on the side of the jar. So now when I talk about the maturity of the starter, what I mean is the life cycle of the bacteria and the yeast. So basically how recently it was fed. So a young starter has just been recently fed. So the bacteria and yeast are just beginning to multiply and it does not have the power to raise the leaven. The yeast are still producing carbon dioxide and will continue to do so. So the young starter is before its peak of activity and it needs some time before it would be ready to make a leaven. You can tell it's a young starter when there's just some bubbles on top, maybe a few valleys and peaks, but they're not very inflated and it hasn't risen yet. It's risen less than 30% of its height. So this is not an effective starter and it just needs more time to develop. A mature starter is a starter that's at its peak activity. The yeast has produced the maximum amount of CO2 and it's at its maximum activity. That gives it this nice domed top. There's valleys and peaks that are a little inflated. It's risen at least 30% of its height, sometimes even doubled. So the yeast is at its maximum activity. So therefore it's the most effective starter to give a good rise to your dough by making a great, powerful leaven. And just like we've talked about already, the old starter is the starter on the left here. This is the one that has already reached its peak and fallen down. It has made a mark on the side of the container and it has a lot of hooch built up potentially. It is a little bit more liquidy than it was before and it just doesn't have the power to rise your leaven. So we aim for a mature starter in order to make our leaven. This way it has the most power we can possibly get. So now time to feed our starter. And since I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to feed it basically a double feed tonight. It's good without a feed for 24 hours. So I'm going to mix it and then discard all but 30 grams, same as usual. Then I'm going to feed the same 30 grams of starter, double the amount of food. So I will feed it 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water, a ratio of 3 parts of starter to 10 parts water and 10 parts flour. But remember, it's not so important the exact amount of water. It's the most important that you get the right consistency. So be your own judge and use your intuition to decide. And please don't worry if you're a little bit confused about the young versus mature versus old starter. You will start to get totally used to it. You'll notice what yours looks like after you just feed it. You'll watch it grow and then you'll watch it peak and you'll watch it start to fall back down and you'll see all the different phases. In fact, in a couple of days, we're going to do a little experiment together where we're going to record exactly what happens while your starter is going through its entire life cycle. So this will make everything make so much more sense. So once you've given your starter a double feed, then give it a really good stir for the minimum of 2 minutes till it reaches the right consistency. Check it with my jiggle test and then clean around the outsides of my jar, cover it back up, and then check the elastic level and snuggle it up for the evening. And remember, don't throw out your discard. Look how bubbly and beautiful and active it is. You can use it to bake all sorts of goodies. Just take your discard and place it in the fridge. I keep a jar in the fridge with my discard in it and just keep adding to it as you discard your starter. Then when you feel like baking, you have a beautiful discard left over to help you make some amazing pancakes, muffins, crackers, whatever your heart desires. And believe me, it will take your baking to the next level. You're going to just love baking with your discard. Just remember to use it within a week or to give it a snack of equal parts of flour and water, and it'll be bubbly and active again. And when you make something, please share a picture with me in the comments. I would just love to see your successes. I hope you have a wonderful, peaceful sleep, and I look forward to seeing you in the morning when we'll feed our starters again. Good night.